Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Order of Velvet Bite. And as you can tell, it's a little bit of a touchy subject today, but I promise you I'm not going to just be like, hey, let's bash Donald Trump entirely. That's not my game. My game is to talk about occult dynamics that are going on in politics and then also show you how the actual structure that's controlling our lives is physically organized. So there's like some woo-woo occult stuff. We're going to be checking out Gary Lockman, some of the interviews he did. And the best interviews I found with him on, because he actually wrote a book about Donald Trump and occult politics. But the best clips I found him was from Where Did the Road Go? So please, of course, go check that out with Gary Lockman on wheredidtheroadgo.com with Soraya as Kath as the host. We're going to have a couple of clips from that. So we're going to kind of look at some stuff from 2018, what he was talking about with the occultism now. Gary's probably quite liberal. Gary Lockman, he's a former member of Blondie, I think from about 75 to 78. Gary Lockman was in with Blondie, and of course Debbie Harry, who was in with Blondie, got into OTO, Thelema, kind of Crowley religion, and I would say more of an aesthetic rather than very serious about it, because by the time they were experiencing it, it was out of vogue. It was more vogue and more in the later 60s to early 70s. Then it kind of went out of style by the time they were doing their kind of punk rock retro stuff. But they still kind of got into it. And then when Gary Lockman left Blondie in 78, he went and studied philosophy over in California, and then eventually got into studying a lot of things with occultism. And now he lectures on it and writes books on it. And he had a book called Dark Star Rising, Magic and Power in the Age of Trump. And I know you're like, what? That's kind of crazy. And it's a little bit crazy. But let's be honest, there's occultism and magic on both sides, on all political sides. And then when we're going to start off there, but I'm going to take you bigger and realize that it's all one swarm. So there isn't really two sides or anything like that. But it's going to be fun to navigate it. Anna Karima, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Good to see you. As you can see, I kind of rearranged things, hopefully the way I've got it in a smaller area. I've got some paneling here. Hopefully the sound is a little bit improved. We'll see. We've got our bookshelf in the back. I've got chaos on this thing. I've got a whole bunch of little books here. I mean, we've got so many books. I've got books in storage. We've got tons of books downstairs. I could probably open up eventually a conspiracy theory or occult library, I swear, between me and Mike and our literature. The problem is I never have time to read it. I'm either always planning for this, or I am working or renovating. Very, very often, I just never have time to read anymore. It's interesting, but I suppose we will get there. Before I get into that, I'm just going to remind you guys that nice to be here live I'm glad you're here live, Anna, Karina. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to remind you guys, of course, of all the links you can visit to get all the shows. Of course, we stream live Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. and then Sundays at 3 p.m., all Eastern time, I'm giving you. And we go live on the YouTube, the Twitch, and the Kick. Plus, it's live on Rumble. Sorry, not Rumble anymore. It's live on Substack and the Patreon. And then after that, it gets uploaded onto audio podcasts. So you can also find us on Spotify, Apple, all sorts of podcast platforms. And of course, you can just simply go to the website, melissadonharris.com, to get all those links. And of course, the Substack is Order of Velvet Bite at substack.com. You can support the show over there. And then the Patreon, we're just going to pop over right into the screen. You can see the Patreon choose your membership. It goes anywhere from $2 a month to $12 a month. So depends which you support, changes what you get. And eventually when we go monetize, which hopefully will be soon, on YouTube, I'm going to have different membership levels, give you guys the special icons, design a bunch of stuff, and every pledge level will have special gifts for the exclusive stuff on YouTube. Just the other day, we put out the exclusive episode over on Patreon. I'll show it to you guys right now before we get into the gist of this. Go to collections. Yeah, see, we're live here right now. For some reason, this thing wants to be very slow. But we'll get there. There we go. This is the Patreon. So this stuff, you will find the exclusive Patreon stuff over here. And we did Occult Crazy and Psychic Backlash. Now this ties into, I mentioned a lot of things there on the exclusive episode. That's going to tie into this episode. We're going more broad on this episode, where this one talked about, the functions of what the occult can do and how it can, when you go down these rabbit holes and you get too deep, how it can affect your life, how it can kind of curse you, how looking at dark things, and you go into dark areas and you get involved with dark people, it really does affect your life. So you can check that out on Patreon. It was called Occult Crazy and Psychic Backlash. Appreciate you guys very much. Don't forget to support the show. And if you don't have any money to support us, just remember, subscribe on the YouTube channel. Pretty simple. Thumbs up. Leave some comments. Show up at the lives when you can. Have a chit chat. Ask questions. Talk about any of these elements that interest you. Tomorrow's show is a fun one. We're doing the top 10 most romantic Draculas. Keyword being romantic. So if your favorite Dracula, if I don't list it, it doesn't mean I didn't like it. It just means it didn't fit my romance criteria. But we're going to be doing that tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. So be sure to join me. I've got a presentation. I made a magazine for everybody that is a supporter of the show. So we'll be going over that tomorrow. But today, we want to start with this whole thing because we know that Trump is kind of becoming a Hillary Clinton, like a neocon. I mean, let's be honest. And there's a lot of discrepancy. There's a lot of arguments about this. And, there's a lot of people who die hard support him and say you're being a never Trumper. And it's not that I'm being a never Trumper. It's just sparkling water. It's not wine, guys. Don't worry. It's not that I'm being a never Trumper or want Trump to fail. It's that I'm not a neocon, and he's been infiltrated by neocons. He may have always been influenced by neocons. That may have always been the plan. But Trump is not mega. And you can tell by who surrounds Trump now that he's a neocon. And maybe he has no choice. Maybe there is no choice. But he's doing things that Hillary Clinton had on her list to do. And why does Hillary Clinton have that on her list to do? Why did the Bushes have a lot of this stuff and regime change and infiltrations? Because they're not running the show. I think we all know none of these presidents really run the show. But we are going to talk about, we're going to go back to 2018 and take a look at Gary Lockman, who is talking about Donald Trump and how he's basically pushing occultism in his political campaigning. And I dare to argue that both sides do. They have different symbolism. They have different things that they push. So let's switch over here. This is an interview that Gary Lockman did. And he's going to be talking about Trump. We have 3 clips to show you where he talks about Donald Trump and the occultism on the right.
All the news media. This wasn't anything just on some strange website. But amidst all the other sort of reports of this, there was one piece by a fellow named Harv Bishop, who writes about New Thought. He has a blog about New Thought. And New Thought is a sort of generic name for a variety of kind of.
So, for those of you who don't know what New Thought is, think law of attraction, thoughts equal things. Think along those lines. So, he's going to get into New Thought and how that ties into Donald Trump.
Philosophies based on the idea that thoughts create reality, that thoughts are causative. So mental science or science of mind or mind power. And what grabbed Bishop's attention was that what Spencer claimed to have done. This is exactly the sort of thing that people who practice New Thought, want to do: make dreams reality in a very concrete sense. Now, that could have just been some strange kind of thing, and they could have just been very excited, with the victory, and let their enthusiasm go to their heads. But an odd thing connected to this and the whole New Thought idea is that Trump himself sort of grew up in an atmosphere of a kind of New Thought philosophy. Trump is a devotee of the work of the Reverend Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote The Power of Positive Thinking in the 50s, and it was a big bestseller. And when Trump was a boy, he used to go with his family to Peale's sermons, which he gave at the Marble Collegiate Church on Fifth Avenue in New York. And then later in his adult years, Trump would go there as well, and he had 2 of his weddings took place there. And he absorbed this philosophy of positive thinking, which is all about winning. It's all about being positive, being affirmative, being forward driven, being very
And I think you can tell to Donald Trump that's what means make America great again means winning. And so he's going to bring this into the foray where it's not just about being proud and connected to your fellow Americans and having a healthy and stable economy and stable for the population. It's about him and winning. That's where his mindset is. So when you're like that, any opportunity and any connection with any people is the best. And connections with the best people, and it could be the neocons, is winning to him. It has to be about winning through his perception.
not letting sort of things get in the way of you achieving, your goals in all this. And this is something that we know is very much in Trump's character. And this is a philosophy that he's presented in his sort of self-help books like The Art of the Deal and other things like that. So not only so you have these kind of Trump fellow.
Okay, now we're going to go to the next one because I chop these up into smaller sections.
Books like The Art of the Deal and other things like that. So not only so you have these kind of Trump fellow travelers somehow claiming that they didn't subsequently deny that this is what Harv Bishop had said, claiming that they had somehow willed Trump into office. Then you have a president who himself practices or at least adheres to a kind of philosophy, a view of the world that is very much part of.
So you start to get to see how a lot of politics on the right started to swing towards this law of attraction, like we did this by thinking. And I believe part of that's true, but I believe what happens is that people think that because there's so much mind control, propaganda, and manipulation happening on both sides of the political spectrum, you have to question whether you thought it in. Because oftentimes these politicians will do things like a slogan. Maybe it's Make America Great Again. Maybe for Obama, it's like change or hope or I'm with her or build back better. And they use a slogan, but they don't really explain the complexities behind that and what they mean by that. They just mirror themselves for you and you kind of project what you mean, but instead you kind of get what they mean and the deep state and the bankers mean. So there's some trickery and some illusion going on here, like most magicians. So we'll keep listening to that.
Part of that New Thought world. And so things started to radiate out and get a bit stranger. And then in the early part of 2017, in February, after Trump had started his term, the New York Times ran an article about a speech that Steve Bannon had given to a select group of the Vatican in 2014. Now, at the time, Bannon was still part of Trump's team. He subsequently sort of lost his place, but at this time, he still had Trump's ear. And in this speech, among other things, that Bannon usually talks about, and like the global Tea Party movement, and
I'm going to pause this right here because he's going to get into Bannon and how Bannon is a kind of follower of some of this esoteric stuff. But Bannon was in Breitbart. And it's interesting that all this stuff right now is going on between Candace and Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro, because there's some evil stuff. And you'll see how the manipulation happens and how they manipulate each other. And they're almost like a gang and a mafia, too. So you've got occultism, you've got mafia thinking going on here. And why I'm bringing up Bannon, it's a little sidetrack, but Bannon was just at AmFest and he totally trashed Ben Shapiro because Ben Shapiro was a never Trumper. And Ben Shapiro got hired onto Breitbart, and within a few weeks, Andrew Breitbart, the founder, who said he had a lot of information to expose, suddenly died of a mysterious heart attack in the prime of his life. And then the guy who was doing his autopsy in LA died of some kind of military grade poisoning. Like people just start dying. So the same way that Charlie Kirk's death is suspicious, so is Andrew Breitbart's. And then Ben Shapiro was trying to take over Breitbart, but they never let him. So he what he did was he had people infiltrate and create rumors and lies about Breitbart, trash them out, and he was at the same time opening up Daily Wire, and he took Breitbart people with him and killed the company because he was always jealous because they wouldn't let him lead. He is now doing the same thing with TPUSA. So this is another crazy element of all this occultism, is how they infiltrate companies, take over. They either you let them take over, or they trash your healthy company and then open up theirs to take the place. It's a really crazy stuff, but this is part of the weird occultism that happens in politics. But when we go to the bigger picture of the swarm, you'll see how these people are strategic little parts of people higher than them. So Breitbart was always pro-Trump and very mega, and he was gone. And then this slowly got infiltrated by neocons like Ben Shapiro, and you can see them doing the same thing right now with Trump. They're running the show. Trump ain't running the show. Keep going.
fighting Islamic fascism. He name checks a fellow named Julius Evola. Now, Julius Evola was a 20th century Italian esoteric philosopher who also had very far-right political leanings. He tried to ingratiate himself first with Mussolini and then with the
And I'm just going to mention again, Lockman is probably more lefty, democratic, so he's going to come at this from looking at the right. I think he's got limited perceptions because, like I said, when we go bigger to the swarm image, which you'll understand what I mean by the swarm when I show it to you, you'll actually understand that the left and the right are just, it's a coin, and the people above it flip it, and they use each side for what agenda they want to accomplish at the time. So there you have it. But right now he's talking about the history of the occultism on the alt-right and how the right to in 2015 to right now was harnessing the occult.
socialism. And he's sort of a hero of the alt-right. His philosophical ideas about society and politics are sort of the intellectual kind of anchor for Spencer's ideologies and things of that sort. But he also practiced a kind of magic that was very much along the same lines of this new thought sort of thing and positive thinking kind of thing. The idea that through the mind, through the imagination, through visualization, and a willed intent, you can affect reality. And he actually tried to do this in the 1920s. He tried to have.
So Lockman kind of presents us as almost like pseudoscience, even though he's an occultist himself. But I actually don't think it's like I don't think it's pseudoscience. I think it's very real, and I think the system knows it's very real. And in fact, I find Lockman a little limited in how he's perceiving it. I'd like some of his information. He's like historically accurate, but he's really limited because he sees it as the alt-right does this and the left are freedom lovers. And that is not true, because you see the left do occultism, but they do it very differently. Like they worship transgender symbols and stuff like that. And they kind of want to undo all of biology. It's very strange stuff on the left. So he's putting it in this context, but what I think we'll come to see, and I'll give a little hint at this, that all these figures that he's pointing out as bad and attached to Trump and the right is actually controlled by the same people. They're assets to the feds, they're assets to the state. They're controlled by the same people who also control the left. Let's continue on. We've got a few more seconds and then we'll get into the third part.
A kind of magical influence on Mussolini and his fascists. So with each step, things got stranger and stranger and stranger. And as I said earlier, eventually it sort of made its way to Russia and to other places and the internet and all sorts of strange things.
Now, on this show, on this very podcast, and you can check it out on Where Did the Row Go, he kind of goes on about how a lot of the stuff hit Russia too, much earlier than it hit in America, but it did so in like Russia was like this ancient mother Russia, that Putin is using occultism and symbolism and archetypes to revive this sort of pre-revolution Orthodox Russia, and that is very accurate, I think. And Trump sort of was a response to that, where he was trying to revive something in America. But if you can compare America and Russia, Russia's history is a lot more ancient. It's a lot more founded. And when you hear Putin speak, he has this really eloquent understanding of like 1100 years of history. Whereas when you hear Trump speak, he's like, China, MAGA. Like it's kind of dumbed down. You don't get the same in-depth feelings. And I think that's what people really crave. And as MAGA has gone on, Trump's just not able to offer that. And I think that's what people really want. And I think that's where the weaknesses in Trump is all they have to offer you right now is TPUSA and fireworks and Erica Kirk and letting people take pictures in the tent that Charlie Kirk got assassinated in, and crazy ass supposed pastors singing "We Are Charlie Kirk" crazy songs. Like they it's really empty, it's trivial. There's something very shallow about what's happening here, where I think as in Russia there's a little bit more depth behind it. There's a real energy behind it, and Lockman doesn't really define that in his discussion, but he is in 2018, and I do have hindsight. I've seen what's actually happened. Maybe Lockman would have a different opinion. We've got one more part where he discussed Donald Trump as a chaos magician. And this may speak to some of you, it's a little bit longer, but is Donald Trump a chaos magician? Let's hear what he has to say, because this could be true.
Our ideas about reality have shifted.
Right. Now, one of the things you argue here is that Trump is basically a chaos magician. He may not know it, and may not use that terminology, but you compare his behavior with that of the way chaos magic is presented.
Yeah, it's sort of his style. And I hasten to say that in no way do I want to stigmatize, chaos magic or chaos magicians.
Right.
They're not responsible for this in any way. This is something that I just sort of noticed, but I don't think I'm the only.
If Trump is a chaos magician, there's a purpose to that, because the actual system above him that controls Trump is not necessarily chaos. It's very structured, but they'll use chaos when needed. They'll bring in chaos to undo things so they can do their empire building later on. If that makes any sense to you guys.
I don't think I'm the only one. In fact, this was something else that at the time, right around after the election, where at least in the kind of social media community that I'm part of, there did seem to be a sense that something had changed, that things certainly were strange, and people were kind of talking to each other and posting messages and all that, and this whole idea of chaos, somehow chaos having come up, and chaos being suddenly sort of the theme, seemed to be in the air. And one of the things I noticed was that, the reason chaos magic comes into this, I mean, I don't know, I'm sort of telling the story back to front, but one of the things, the reason why chaos magic comes into it is that the way in which the alt-right were supposed to have dreamed Trump into office was through a kind of offshoot of chaos magic, which has to do with the internet. But
it's really interesting because I'd never heard this idea that the chaos magicians of the right dreamed and manifested Trump through use of the internet. So before, we would project reality out of our mind. Now what they're saying we're doing is we're using the internet and we're projecting into the internet, and the internet is projecting reality back to us. It's really strange that we're using the internet and social media to perform chaos magic. And that gets into things like meme magic. Like we use memes as magical tools and sources, which when I heard that, I was like, yeah, the fuck we do. I do it all the time. We're literally doing magic with memes. And the thing is it's a stacked game almost, because there's already algorithms and equations and things written so that certain people's meme spells and their shows get seen more than others. So some people will be notified about shows right away. Everybody will tune in. They might have more money pumped into them, even if it's at a loss. It's really a strange thing that we're how we're doing magic via the internet. And they believe that they manifested Trump via the internet. And of course, Trump is, at least he was, quite the little chaos magician on Twitter back in the day. I don't know what's going on now over at his Truth Social. He's not really writing witty posts anymore. He's writing like giant ranting crazy old man essays. I don't know what's going on. You tell me. It's getting weird.
with Trump himself, his whole style, his whole kind of way he carries himself, he's very impromptu. He doesn't like to stick to any sort of plan. He likes to be spontaneous. He likes to keep people guessing. He changes plans all the time. The hiring and firing, and the enigmatic tweets and kind.
And this was before. Obviously, he's saying this in 2018. This is a long time before we see Netanyahu really come out and influencing Trump, where we realized how much that country over there was calling the shots in America. And he'll talk about conspiracy theories, but and he'll talk about how we've gotten into alternative facts, as if the mainstream media and what was shown to us was facts. But I think what we're actually getting into is a revelation that the mainstream media, and remember, Gary Lockman's a boomer, so he's going to have some mind control and brainwashing himself, and he's going to believe the mainstream media. I think we're having a revelation where we're showing that a lot of mainstream media is propaganda and it's a control system, and they've hidden a lot. They are directing us. These are our masters. They've always controlled all these systems, and we've kind of broken out a little bit, and they're trying to kind of restrain it back in. So I disagree with Lockman where he's going on, alternative facts, alternative facts. There are alternative facts. They use that word, but it's almost like, how do I say it? Like the mainstream are the ones that created a false narrative, and we're just breaking out of it. And because he's used to the media's false narratives and their false perception of history, and he's used to that being played in his head and doesn't realize it's been inserted into his mind. He sees that as factual. So we're kind of living in two different universes here.
Messages where you're never quite sure exactly what he means, or he says outrageous things, and the whole kind of glamour, this kind of aura of sort of glamour and fantasy and power that he creates around him, which goes back to his time as wrestling promoter, and also his time as the apprentice. I mean, it's from the beginning of his career. I mean, this was
Yeah, they are entertainers. This is what I mean, and we'll come to this, is that Donald Trump isn't running the show. Donald Trump's an entertainer. Almost all of these politicians are playing roles. Would they like to get things done that are nice for humanity? Maybe they would, but they're not going to have that option because they're not in charge. And so they are being run by a massive, massive system. It's very overwhelming. We're going to get into that in a video called The Swarm in a few minutes after we finish up with Gary Lockman. And I also have some advice at the end from Gary Lockman, which I think is stable.
He and sort of the Post, in New York, they kind of the scandal sheets, they kind of came to life at the same time. He was the perfect sort of material for this sort of thing, and he created this sort of legend about himself and all that. And so all of these things are sort of part of the kind of technique that or practices that chaos magic sort of enjoys, but at this and at the same time, Trump's attitude toward reality, it's very malleable. Reality is up for grabs. You create your own reality. This is something that comes out of the positive thinking background.
Reality is malleable in a way, or the perception of reality. There is a structure around us that's not malleable, but the perception is very malleable. And the system knows this. This is what we talk about when we talk about mind control, the CIA. Gary Lockman, I don't think he realizes how much the CIA and all these agencies control. And I don't think he realizes that a lot of these alt-right figures are also assets. He goes on, and I think we're just going to end it right there. He will go on to talk about 4chan and alt-right people and the kick frog. He goes on to, as if these things are super important, and they become viral. But what he doesn't understand is Discord servers, 4chan, they're all filled with feds. It's all infiltrated with feds. We went over the gaming, Roblox, it's all infiltrated with hideous stuff. The dark web, the feds are over there pushing out this stuff. So these little alt-righters share this stuff and create chaos. They're doing it on all ends. They're playing both sides. They would never just leave that up to chance at all. It would never be that they would leave that. They are putting out their own spells. And remember, Gary Lockman practiced Thelema, and we know NASA and a lot of these agencies were into that. They have people who are deep into these thelemic. And I don't want to insult all thelemic people, because people who do this, they do their own path. They could be very positive. But the deep state and these really psychopaths who have grabbed hold of this, they obviously have really negative intentions, and they infiltrate it into all their habits and practices. And one of the things you have to realize, it's one religion for us out in the front, whether it's the Catholic Church or whatever. They do one thing for us that's weak for the masses. It's like here's the genes for the masses, and then they have their really crazy elite rituals in the background. And remember, they use astrology to a level, not just you read your astrology for the day and it says beware, you're going to meet a stranger and he's going to tell you to take this opportunity, and nothing simple, like in depth with their birth patterns, the charting, when to put things out, what kind of logos to use, when to release products, how to, maybe even battles are done on important days. Why did Trump choose the time he did for Venezuela? Now, remember, Venezuela is important because they were doing deals with China, and that was very threatening to America. I understand the whole premise, but the way he did it and what they're accusing Maduro of is kind of ridiculous and propaganda. And the reason they did it have nothing to do with that, because if they were going to stop drug trafficking into America, They just arrest everybody at the CIA. They would just shut it all down, and that would end that, because they're the biggest drug dealers going. So it had nothing to do with that. It has to do with the petrodollar. That's the magical, magical cult symbol of everything. It has to do with the petrodollar, them dealing with China, and of course, America wanting access to their resources. And it's way more than just oil. It's a lot, gold, and a whole bunch of other different resources. Remember that. But Trump had aggressive occult politics, the idol worship of mega, and he has this sort of chaos magic going, whereas Russia and Putin are heralding back to a really ancient history, a Mother Russia, Orthodox, ancient traditions. And there's a lot about the occult that is traditional. That's why a lot of, even though evangelicals they absolutely hate the occult and they say it's evil, they do occult things all the time. They just don't realize it. Occult really relies on traditions and old traditions. It's not as modern as you think. Now, mind projection, Gary, we're not going to get into Gary Lockman talking about mind projection, but it is real. It is true. He says he's experienced it as real. And I will say this again. People think they projected Trump. Did they project Trump, or did Trump read them? Was Trump watching them, and Trump came in and made them think? He mirrored himself. He used their energy to get in power. And now he's using that power for some other force. And it was always the plan all along. Who was fooled? I have a feeling the base and the other people were more fooled than Trump was. Let's see here. And like I said, now that we know that the US has been acting in tandem with Israel for many, many decades, taking over the world, and with the banking system, Rothschild banking system, it kind of twists things on its head a little bit. This is no longer for America. This is globalism. There's no doubt about it. 100%. No doubt about it. We'll come back to, I have a couple of more videos. We're going to come back to that stuff later. Let's look at a little clip with Professor Zhang, and then I want to go in to talk about the swarm. I want you guys to see what the system actually is, because everybody talks about the deep state and the Antichrist and tripe like that as if it's one figure or it's a couple of people, but it's actually this massive system. And it's very structured. It's almost mimicking like when you see a flock of birds move and flying in a pattern, or bats and they follow each other. It's almost like that, but it's not as organic. But it behaves like that, but it's not as nice behavior. Let's just put it that way. It's very psychopathic and aggressive and cold and cruel behavior. We're going to go show you in a few seconds, after we look at Professor Zhang tell us how these secret societies and these families and these occultism, how they pass down power. And then we're going to look at how they structure power, because that's really important, because everybody seems to not know what it is. You get these Alex Jones types telling us, or not even Alex Jones, he's a fraud, he's a Fed asset. You get David Icke going, you gotta get off your knees and stand up, and no one ever shows you what it is that you're standing up to, and once you see it, you're going to be overwhelmed. But let's just listen to Professor Zhang talk about how they hand down power. It's a very quick clip. It's important, and then we'll move on to the swarm.
And you would share your experience, your rituals, your religion with your children and your grandchildren. And quickly, over time, what will happen is that you guys will conquer the world. You will become the secret elite. The world is yours. And you would...
So you hear what he's saying. Everybody's like, well, how did this happen? It's called the long game. So you have generations and generations. Why it's not about white people versus brown people versus this religion. It's about these elites going in a bloodline, and they are betting on generation after generation that if they keep this function up and they keep this ritual up and they keep this, what I'm going to show you next, this structure up, eventually their descendants will control the world. Maybe they didn't, but in 100 years or 200 years, their descendants will. And that's why they have all these 2020, 2030, 2021 plans, because this is their structure. Now, this video, we're going to go through all of it. I will pause and talk, but this is important. This is the swarm, and I've got it on my playlist here. So let's go and check it out. It's loading a little slow today. This is important because this is going to show you exactly how it's structured. And I was always, like I said, I was always mystified. Like, well, what do they want me to do? Like, what am I supposed to do? What am I up against? And then when I watched this and how it's structured, I thought, oh no, what am I really supposed to do? You would have to find a way to tap out of the swarm and not be influenced by it, because when the swarm moves, eventually you move with it, no matter what. It's pretty powerful. It's pretty powerful. Let's not this video and not that commercial. I'm pretty sure I saved it. I better have saved it somewhere. Uh-oh. Where is it? Ah, here it is. Shatter the Swarm, this video is called, with Dr. Shiva.
Good evening, everyone. It's Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. How a very small set of people control 8 billion people. This is what I call the elite. Let's say there's about 10,000 of them. How is it these people are able to manipulate the 8 billion people here? If you talk to a lot of naive people, they think, oh, it's the Rothschilds over here, or it's the aliens. They don't understand. It's not any one individual. It's not any one organization. There's something called swarm intelligence. If you watch all those birds flying together, not any one of them is in control. They move together as a unit. They're closely knit. They're quote unquote telepathic, but they move with a singular goal. The goal of the elites here is power, profit, and control. This is the goal. So if we look at it from a control system, what are the inputs they're sending into this system to achieve their goals? And what is the output that they seek? So if you're an elite over here and you're looking at those 8 billion people, how do you know you're achieving your goal? Are people getting fat, meaning unhealthy? Are people getting dumb, which means ignorant? Are people happy, which means are they being...
I'm going to pause it here, because those are things you can see within our culture. But I'm going to counter argue that the swarm, the elites, because they think they're above us, because they have a hierarchical concept like a pyramid, they don't realize we're actually all connected. It's not a pyramid. I've interviewed enough people on near-death experiences to know it's not a pyramid. They don't realize that. And so when they make us fat, dumb, stupid, eventually they make themselves fat, dumb, and stupid. Their children will be dumber. Their children are dumber. Let's keep going.
Entertained? Are people divided? Are they isolated, disconnected? They don't want people here connecting with each other. Are people feeling helpless? Are people looking to the elites to save them? And they like that. They like when people here are...
And that's what was happening with anyone when we look to the politicians, whether it's Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Ronald Reagan, any of these elites, when we looked at them to come in and save the day, it's like a joke to them. It gives them so much power. It's why we have to stop. If it doesn't stop, like all these people who are worshiping Donald Trump and MAGA, they have set themselves up for failure, unfortunately.
Looking to them, the enemy here, for their saviors. They really love that. They want people to be disorganized, and they definitely want people to be helpless. This is what they want. If you do not want to unite among people here and find who your own leaders are from below, they are quite happy. They're achieving their goal, power, profit, and control. Now, how do they do this? You're going to realize.
So you realize they want you disconnected. They don't want you looking for leadership and power positions amongst your people. They want you looking up to them, to the professionals, to the elites, and they want you disconnected, fat, and miserable so that you don't communicate properly and you're always fighting and arguing and you're always at war. This is why I know that they control these alt-right people and they create a lot of the chaos that's in the system. through their little magical spells.
Guys, it's not any one group. It's an interconnected, tightly knit group. They're all closely interconnected. In fact, they all go to the same restaurants. They have all their kids going to the same equestrian shows. They all shop at the same place. They all go to the same parties. You're not part of that. So who are these people? And what are the institutions of power that they have? Well, first of all, they have academia. Harvard, Oxford, Yale, MIT, IIT in India, the top 100 university presidents. These people are on boards of companies, but it's about 100 people who run the major universities in the world. NGOs, or nonprofits. These are people who run these huge nonprofit organizations like the Clinton.
TPUSA was a nonprofit. There's lots of people who nonprofits don't support them. They are poison. TPUSA is a nonprofit. It's part of this elite system. Just remember that.
Global Initiative, WEF, World Economic Forum, Center for Foreign Relations. And there's many other institutions like these, but it's the CEOs of these institutions. And these guys know each other. They definitely work together. The next thing you have is you have government, US senators, prime ministers of countries, advisors to government, think tanks, the Belfer School at Harvard, the Stanford Internet Observatory. They created the censorship infrastructure. This includes CIA, right? Intelligence organizations. And again, all these people know each other. They're interconnected. They're a swarm. They're tightly knit. They're not divided like these people over here. They're not disconnected. They're highly interconnected. So these people are focused on power. But then you also have a whole nother people, the CEOs of the global 2000 companies, other big organizations like big pharma companies, Pfizer, big agriculture companies like Syngenta, big investment companies, JP Morgan. You put Deutsche Bank here. You put Epstein down here, okay? He was involved in all this. You also have the Fed, the central banks. All these people party together. When I say party together, I mean literally they party together.
They party together, they traffic children together. They're all coming up with schemes in this little conglomerate to keep taking money and power from you and consolidating it for themselves. So you are constantly begging them for help. And you're so dumb, you don't know what to do.
Guys, absolute close-knit friends. And in fact, the CEO of a global 2000 company will easily move to one of the investment companies down here. If you look at Target, big companies like Anheuser-Busch and Exxon, you'll find that at one point they were in one of these investment companies, and these investment companies sit on the board of these companies, and they shuffle back and forth. So this is all about making money, right? These people are about making.
So that's why Big Pharma has a revolving door with people in, I don't know, Congress. You'll see a revolving door. People from pharma will then be in government, and they'll start making the rules to benefit the people, the stuff in big pharma. Like that's the level of insanity. And it's this swarm. Let's keep going because it gets bigger. The swarm gets bigger.
The dollar. These people are all about power. This is profit. And then fundamentally, you have control. Hollywood over here. This includes celebrities. You have their agents, Hollywood agents, like Ari Emanuel, as I've talked about, who's a guy who controls most of Hollywood. He controls Worldwide Wrestling Federation, the MMA, etc. The media companies. This includes Disney, Viacom. This includes now Facebook, Twitter, YouTube.
Do you remember when Donald Trump showed up at the MMA competitions and wrestling and stuff? It's all connected to this. So to think that Donald Trump is fighting on everyone's behalf when he's connected to all these people that are connected to this swarm and global power is ridiculous. It's naive. You might as well just bend over and take it. It's absolutely crazy. They're like they're all connected, and Donald Trump is a little dot in this web as well. Same with Barack Obama. They play their job out and do what they have to do. And it isn't. We have really been duped for a very long time.
These are large media companies. Google, you can put in there also. You also have big news stations, CNN, Fox. And combined with this, now we have another group, social media influencers. This is like Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, these characters who have come in, but they do not exist without support from these guys. If you notice, overnight, a bunch of social media influencers have come out of nowhere. And these people are created by these people. So when you look at this,
That's why I've been suspicious about most podcasts, but nobody shows up to watch my podcast where we talk about this because I'm a nobody. I don't have support from this. I suppose if I had like millions of thousands of dollars and a whole bunch of diet pills and plastic surgery and whatever, that I would, become famous. I mean, remember when YouTube first started, people could just get on there and talk and grow. And there are still some people that are doing that, but the big podcasts like Sean Ryan and that Lex Friedman, they show up and they're not really that special. And they get big. It's because they're receiving money from this bubble. The Viacom and the media companies. They are literally getting little bits spit out to the population and they're meant to control the population and how we perceive these elite structures, or maybe even that we don't even know that they exist, or they lead us into a different direction so we never figure out if they exist.
Academics, the NGOs, the government, the think tanks, the investment companies, the Fed, the big pharma, the CEOs, the Hollywood celebrities, media, social media influencers, and the news companies. And you can even take the top 10 of each one of these. They all know each other, everyone. And in order to manipulate these people, they need front men to manipulate these people with policies. Because what comes out are policies. These are the inputs they put into the system, propaganda. They feed these people purposely, people who they tell them are going to save them, like the Elon Musks or Trump or the Kennedys. Now, who are the people part of the swarm that does that? They have.
So you see that Trump's not even there in this swarm. Trump is one of these false heroes. He's in the media, in the propaganda. He's actually the in-between. The power is right behind him in this glob of CEOs and NGOs and governments and big pharma and the Harvard education system and the media. It's behind them. And they're just the front men. You see what I mean? They're just the front men.
The obvious establishment. And these people are like the Clintons or the McConnells or the Obamas or the Bushes or the Queen of England. Typically people say, oh yeah, those guys are part of the establishment. But one of the things we teach at Truth Freedom Health, the most insidious people are what I call the not so obvious establishment. These are the people that are created to make sure that the 8 billion people look to the elites to save them. Trump, he's got a golden toilet. Mar-a-Lago, Kennedy's, completely bogus family. You can look at historically people like Gandhi or people like MLK. These people all came and were endorsed by the swarm. These people do not exist. They live in Malibu. They live in the places of the elites. And these people are the ones that are used to send the inputs of this controller. In system science, these are the controllers. These are the people controlling the inputs that go in. And remember, their goal is to make sure people are in the state of division, disconnection, and helplessness, particularly. They're observing all this. They have their sensors. And one of the features that they notice is that as long as people are in dysfunction and diseased mentally, physically, emotionally, they're happy. Well, what are those diseases these days? We see obesity. We see endocrine disruption, men with low testosterone, and people questioning their sexuality. We also see people with cancer. The world's population's life expectancy is going down. The United States is going this way, and this is from 1980 to 2020. They like this. This is life expectancy. In fact, when they see dysfunction, you know what they do? They put another input in, which is normalize the dysfunction. Eat sugars, high fructose food. Well, over here, people have been literally getting fat. It's led to obesity. Or they've been putting in foods that are affecting people's gut microbiome. This is what I call from policy to biology. People are getting worse and worse. They're actually making more money because the obesity now creates obesity drugs. The endocrine disruptors, let's talk about this. This will really explain what's going on with Bud Light. About 20 years ago, there was research done at the universities that clearly showed the use of restricted use pesticides like atrazine and other chemicals in the atmosphere actually cause endocrine disruption, which could reduce male testosterone, which could also affect mammals where the sex organs can change. And this was done by the work of Tyrone Hayes. So if you're over here at a university and you find out one of your researchers discovered that, and you are playing golf with people over here at Syngenta is the one who produced atrazine, they're going to say, hey,
yeah, you see how it do it. They find out this has happened. They talk to the drug companies. The drug companies like, hey, well, we can make some money off of that. It's like this insane money-making swarm of psychopaths. It seems when you look at the whole picture and how it's designed and how these people are the front people, I don't know. He's saying for him for president to solve it. I don't know. He's from MIT, so he could be part of the swarm. Anna Karima said, "You're quite attractive the way you are. You have your own power." Thank you so much. Well, I would never want to get plastic surgery anyways, because if you notice that all these people look the same, they look like plastic faces. And, I'm not against having a little surgery if you want to refresh your face and take 7-10 years off if you're in your 50s and 60s. But these people have so much surgery. They just all look plastic with baboon asses for mouths. It's getting crazy. They don't even look real. They don't even look unique anymore. But this whole system, I don't know how you could get out of it. And when I was talking before with Gary Lockman about showing the clips about Trump being this magician, you can see he is a magician. He is doing things. He's a front. But I don't think Gary Lockman understood this whole system behind it. And it's important to know. It's important to see. I may only have 5 of you watching right now, and maybe only 30 will watch Max in the future. But however many of you know, it's better to know than to actually be deceived that Trump or Obama or Hillary give a rat's ass about what happens to us. They serve all these people in the swarm, and they report to them, and they do policies, and they do things that help get them more money. It's a psychopathic way of living. It is not a traditional way of living at all. You cannot have a traditional culture out of this, and I don't know if it ever collapses. I don't know what happens with it or where it goes from here. I'm assuming it gets worse. I'm assuming, Elon Musk wants to put brain chips in all of our brains, so we absolutely have zero choice now. But this is it. This is the pile of shit that we're up against.
Man, we don't want this research coming out, because you have to understand something. The investment community here is investing in all of these companies. So if you're one of these large investment companies, you're moving trillions of dollars. $600 trillion, by the way, move through the economy every day. You, as one of the elites managers of money, you're moving all this money. You know all of these people. You know the CEO of Target. You know the CEO of Anheuser-Busch. You know the CEO of Pfizer and Syngenta. And imagine that you see, wow, the stuff that we...
You guys, this is like a really messed up game of Risk. It's a really it's more complicated than Risk, but it's like that. I think it's more messed up. It's just a really crazy way to dominate, but it shows you how absolutely their system is not chaos magic. It's very organized. It's a highly organized system.
We've been creating is causing sexual disruption changes. You're seeing a phenomenon where more and more people are questioning their sexuality. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that the general public doesn't understand this, because if they did, they would awaken to something that's going on from the decisions you made. So you call up your friend, Bud Light, he goes, "Hey, look, let's run a campaign. Let's normalize trans. Let's exploit a willing person to be exploited like this Dylan Mulvaney. Let's put them on as a poster boy for Bud Light, and let's push them out there, because we want the attention to normalize a dysfunction, because the goal is to make sure they don't lose their trillions over in Syngenta. They're willing to take $1 billion hit over here, but they want to save their trillions in big pharma and big ag, because they're all part of the same family. They all do favors for each other. And then again, you would go do it at Target. You try to normalize it, because you don't want people over here to understand the bigger picture. But you are interconnected. You could strike deals left and right. Let's do a marketing campaign in here. Let's normalize. Same thing if you can look at what's going on in obesity. All these pharma companies are making big money from obesity drugs, but there's movies on Netflix and Amazon promoting fat people as a norm. What's happening over here, you have people who are pro-fat and people who are anti-fat people. You have people who are pro-woke and anti-woke, and they don't care. So you have a bunch of these idiots writing books against woke companies and anti-woke companies. You have people creating apps, only shop at anti-woke companies, don't go to woke companies. But you guys understand that these guys don't give a damn? They're making money anyway. The investment bankers are going to make money from woke companies and anti-woke companies.
You see, they play both sides of the coin. That's why it doesn't matter who's in the government. As long as they're able to capture the people, the mind, help control, be effective, and get the job done. It doesn't matter who's in. They will just spin it, whatever the narrative is, to make more money and to, get their initiatives done. One of their big goals, obviously, now is to expand, keep the petrodollar strong, take over any country that is not in the Rothschild banking system. America is essentially that. It's like this vessel that is supposed to take over all the countries in the world. I don't know how China fits into this. I think China's already in the Rothschild banking system, if I could be honest. I think we're already in a globalist world. But this just really explains that it doesn't even matter what stance you take. They're going to make money no matter what. So all these people who are, I mean, it's good to fight against surgeries for children, and you shouldn't go to jail because you don't want your kid to have a sex change surgery at 13. I mean, those are not good things, but they'll make money off of that. They'll make money off of going against it. It is diabolical. They like dysfunction. It's a dysfunctional system because they don't want you to not be dysfunction, because that's how they make money.
What's occurring here is people are being divided. These guys are happy because they're inputting policies and propaganda. People here are being divided, and that is the goal, to achieve power, profit, control. So as long as these people work together as a swarm to control the policies and the propaganda, and they provide false heroes, and they're using the Trumps, the Kennedys, and Gaudis, all of them who talk a big game, their goal is to make sure.
So the one thing you have to be careful that you don't do now is that you don't treat this guy as a hero. Remember, he's from MIT. That could be one of the schools. Just saying that we don't treat Candace as a hero. That if Candace ever steps out of line and starts acting strange, that we are like, hey, you know what? We support your show. We'll just leave. But there'll be another show and another show and another show. This system will keep popping out people, popping out smear campaigns. It'll never end. You would literally have to just detach yourself from everything and live like, with very few people to be able to get away from this from any large degree.
Sure that you never understand this, that you keep thinking, oh, Kennedy's going to solve the problem. Trump is going to solve the problem. They don't want you to be leaders in your own communities. They want you to outsource your future to people like Trump or Kennedy because they're part of the swarm. And you keep getting more unhealthy, more ignorant, more entertained. But most importantly, you are divided. People here don't organize themselves to smash this people up. And this is the history of human oppression. They have it down to a system, a goal. They have a controller. They have specific inputs. And they manipulate billions of people to achieve this state. They produce dysfunction. They don't give a damn if you die. The life expectancy in the United States, your children are going to die sooner than you, and they achieve their goal. They don't give a damn. Do you understand? These people are eating organic foods. They get the best restaurants. They get the best insurance. They get the best healthcare, and this is what they want to achieve. And that's how they're controlling people. The other way they're controlling you.
So we'll get into the other way they're controlling us, but this means all the podcasters, Steven Crowder, Jordan Peterson, maybe even Tucker. I don't know. All these people, they are there to keep us divided and crazy. They are there to do work. They'll do it for a few $1,000s. They'll take the money. And none of them, when you have Steven Crowder talk about, oh yeah, the healthcare system in America is the best one. Because we can choose our own insurance. And then to say that to Americans, and most Americans can't even afford to pay it. Like, the insurance prices keep going up because it's run like a mafia. And since Obamacare, the insurance prices are through the roof and people can barely afford it. And him to say that's the best system because he's just out of touch. That is, he can afford it because he's rich. But somebody who's working, a regular job, they can't afford, $1,000 a month for medical insurance. They just can't afford it. It's not even logical. And then meanwhile, all of our taxes go to fund war endlessly, but nobody can get some kind of medical system. It's a fraud. It's like one giant Ponzi scheme. One giant Ponzi scheme, occult, psychotic Ponzi scheme.
Is they want you to keep looking to the elites like Trump and Kennedy and all these people to save you. They want you to look to the swarm. They do not want you to ever support a Malcolm X or a Dr. Shiva or you. They don't want you to become leaders. And this is a goal. As long as you're divided, as long as you're looking over here, you're going to achieve their goal of power, profit, and control. So what's the way out? How do we win? The first way we win, everyone's got to be aware of the science of systems. Without this understanding, there are goals, there are controllers, there are systems, there are intelligence, and there are dumb systems. You are never going to break out of this because you will think everything is, oh my God, we got to talk about aliens and UFOs and flat earth or this. All those may be interesting topics, but they don't come down to the fundamentals of understanding this. And the only way out of this is people here have got to understand the principles of system science. And the good news is you can learn this at Truth Freedom Health. So first of all, learn these principles at Truth Freedom Health. That's the only place. This is my gift to people. We've made it accessible to all your children. Any person who goes through the course, you can give it to your children. Anyone can learn this. But the goal is go to Truth Freedom Health and you will understand the science of systems. So
Okay, so I actually haven't gone to the site, so I don't know if Truth Freedom Health is telling you the truth. My whole point was just to show you how it's organized, and you really do have to start supporting small and local, and that can be hard because what he doesn't tell you is that swarm will send. They also control the police and the lawyers, and they have tons of money at it, and they'll send all those people after you when you start trying to grow your own food, have your own farms, have your own markets, run your own businesses. They'll do crazy things like plan a fake pandemic and shut all the small businesses down. And so you go out of business. They did a massive transfer of wealth then for people to idolize all these people up at the top, the Larry Ellisons and the Elon Musk is insane. It's absolute insanity. We are living in this dystopian world, and it's because of this chaos that this swarm is creating. Let me see if I can go. What was that website? Was it freedomhealth.com? I'll see if I can go type it up and see see if I can find it. No, I don't think that's what it was because that's totally different. What does he say here? Truth, Freedom, Health. Okay. Yeah, I was like, that's they're trying to get me to buy I think they're trying to get me to buy insurance here. I was like, whoops. And they use these key words. You remember when Donald Trump got into power, the first thing he was talking about was freedom cities. Do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember freedom cities? And all the MAGA people were cheering him on. And I'm like, whoa, 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 bro. Do you know what that is? Do you know what a freedom city is? It's literally a 15-minute city. It's a smart city. He just changed the name from Smart City to Freedom City. And it just literally went over all the major hardcore MAGA people's head. I was like, hey, I have no words for the trickery. And so the occult stuff that we're doing and we're seeing right now is more like a magician, like an illusionist. It's not real magic. It's not real occultism. That stuff they practice behind the scenes. What they give you is what's his name there? They give you like David Copperfield. They give you an illusion where it's like a sleight of hand or a bait and switch or, just total gaslighting you. And it's about war. They do have their occult beliefs behind all these wars and all these practices. Genocide says, take a little break here and read his comment. I think the reason people don't see us living in a dystopia system is in the movies. Those societies are dark and raining, but in the real world, we still have sunshine and blue skies. Yeah, like in the Matrix. When they wake up, my dogs are growling back there. They also push the door open here, so now you can see in the hallway. But yeah, in the Matrix, it's like they're all in these crazy pods. And it's not like that. But it's about how it affects your mental health and how insane it will drive you. It's all up here where it's really affecting you. And then it's in the pocketbooks. And then it's in illnesses. Yeah, the sun is still shining in the sky, but you are still having your tax dollars go towards wars that go towards other countries. You can't afford your bills. You're like, can I do my groceries this month? Can I even watch healthy entertainment anywhere? Can I if I do get sick, is my insurance company even going to cover it? Or are they going to suddenly say declined? Like, and there's nowhere to move. This idea that we have freedom and that, there might be some range to move if you get really lucky, but there is this static structure there that's controlling everything, like a royal family would. I mean, it's there. It's definitely there. Let's check out this website that he has. We'll see what it actually says. Dr. Shiva. Because this whole thing, I watched it. It could be an infomercial. But I did it for the pure purpose to see the structure because it was very poignant. Stories of trans, share our solutions, download handout cards, real solutions, banner flyer, tired of all the talk, no action. There's his video there, live long, social connections, clarity and coherence, clean food, air and environment, your body system, personalized health. There is, okay, you can get a free sign up. So there is some marketing there. It has that marketing feel, which leads me to be a little bit, it leaves me skeptical. Let's just put it this way. I'm not going to recommend this off the bat. There is stuff on X for health companies. I'll tell you that right now. I've seen this company and I've checked this out. I'm actually going to check it out further. It is called Crowd Health. So you go to joincrowdhealth.com. Let's pop this up. And it's a way of almost crowdsourcing medical. Join Crowd Health. Crowd Health provides you a portfolio of tools seamlessly woven together to create a beautiful low-cost healthcare solution. We help you find awesome doctors, negotiate bills, and fund those bills through a peer-to-peer funding platform. It's like everybody puts money in the collective, and when you have an issue, they help fund your medical bills or something like that. It's something that I want to look into just to let everybody know exists. It's called Crowd Health. Join crowdhealth.com. If you guys have anything, they have a webinar going on. If you guys have anything comparable that you've seen, pop it in the comments or let me know, post in the comment section after the stream. But there's stuff like this that people are trying to do where people get together. Now, I don't want to be naive. Someone could fraud this. I mean, there's fraud everywhere. Everywhere you turn around, someone could, fraud this and whatnot. But people need to get together and have stuff like this to protect each other. And first start off with healthy food and healthy diet and no sugar and no chemicals. The government, they'll make moves, but they will, in the end, I mean, they'll make moves to do all this stuff, but it will take a long time. And when that swarm I just showed you of all those people, when they make a move, it's slow and it's a plan and you can kind of put chinks in it. But you see all the people that they have around, and this is 10,000 up in these CEO positions, but it's hundreds of thousands more in the media and doing all the jobs and who don't even realize they're supporting a swarm. They think, well, I'm just going to my job today. You're just going to Lowe's. You're just going to Safeway or Starbucks to work your job, but you're actually supporting this swarm system and we don't even realize it. And it's not that it's not in a problem in itself to have a system like that. It's just it's all only about profit. And it's grown so big, and especially the bureaucracy in the government, it's grown so big and corrupt. It's just taking so much with AI, and it wants to control so much that it's literally leaving people like soulless, no energy, and just feeling like broke and divided and sick at the end of the day. So they can't even get up and do anything about it. They can't even think straight to do anything about it. In fact, it's so confusing, they don't even know what to do about it. So they just keep watching the TV or playing the video games and watching movies. And then when you do try to run up in politics, when you do try to gain any system of power, they'll come at you, they'll smear campaign, or they'll offer you money, or they'll take you out. You know what I mean? I don't mean take you out for dinner. I mean take you out. So, crazy land and the occult. And when we were talking about Donald Trump, Gary Lockman was talking about alt right. And then you have extreme left. And these factions love to play extremes. They love to show you what the other side's doing in the most extreme way. The safest thing to do, of course, would be to stay in the middle. And we've got a video about that. We're going to review what Gary Lockman says. Magic power. Oh, here's a little clip from his book, actually. Let's do this 3-minute clip, and then we'll kind of look at what he suggests. I think, okay, well, we might have to. Let's look at a little clip from this. Start right here.
November 2016 U.S. presidential election came as a surprise to many, but surely not to Trump.
I wasn't surprised because I could see that's the way things were going in politics, and that the people behind everything were pushing it. They'll get behind whatever. That's why the neocons are behind Trump right now. They'll get behind whatever they think can take them to power and control the masses. Let's just put it that way.
I am a winner, he said throughout his campaign, and it seems he was right. Winning is important for Trump. As more than one commentator has pointed out, it's no exaggeration to say that it is practically the only important thing for him. As he wrote in his self-help book, The Art of the Deal, designed to help its readers become winners too, I'm the first to admit that I am very competitive and that I'll do nearly anything within legal bounds to win. Most people who know Trump would agree with this self-assessment, although some might suspect that when necessary, he wouldn't be averse to stretching the acceptable boundaries of achieving success just a bit. But business is one thing. Surely politics is another. Or is it? Trump's victory left many reeling and set the political pundits pondering on the reasons for his upset. Scrambling for answers, they looked to white middle-class dissatisfaction, Russian intervention, and Hillary Clinton's bad reputation, among other things, for clues. But one sure contribution to Trump's ascendancy must be his positive self-image, his certainty that, as he told his supporters over and over, he is a winner and that he will get what he wants.
He's kind of turned us into that, who want to be winners in the way that he wants to be winner, that wants to defeat other nations, that want to take for other nations. He's kind of turned it into that we want to beat the left or we want to beat the right, win, 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 not actually build a better country. It's about battling. It's a really weird thing. And I found that other video with Gary Lockman where he talks about how to stay out of this extreme left, extreme right pull, because this is what's happening. And trying to, my goal is to kind of remove myself from the swarm, and it's really hard because it's so massive now. And like I showed you that video where they talked about how they spread the information and their practices and their occult habits and everything. They spread it from generation to generation because they know eventually they'll control everything over time. It might take time, but eventually they will. I don't know what the means thing. I don't know what if they have an end goal or they just want more and more. I don't know what satisfies these people. It's like underneath them is a never ending deep void of like neediness or depravity. I don't know what fuels this, but it seems like it's never enough. Or they have some understanding that they have to keep it going. It just doesn't seem to ever be enough. It's like they have to keep building, building, and building and building. And I'm like, okay, if your humans are happy and everything's not calm and stable, to what end is this? And I guess that's the mystery about psychopaths and dark occultists. I'm not talking about people who are, earth Wiccans who worship nature or doing blessings for good things. I'm not talking about people, because intent is really important. I'm talking about these people who don't care for the human condition. They have some kind of creepy, weird, psychotic, very inhuman goal. So let's go into this one where it's Gary Lockman, the middle path, the Goldilocks response to chaos, the Goldilocks response to this kind of crazy swarm, a swarm that creates division and chaos, by the way.
Human nature. This is stuff we all know intuitively. It's part of our tradition. I'm going to say it's part of the esoteric tradition all along. But with Goldilocks, it kind of, it's this idea of bringing the two extremes together into something that's just right. And the historian Arnold Toynbee, who I talk about in other books, he has something that I call the Goldilocks theory of history, because he thought the motor of history was something called challenge and response. And if a society is faced with a challenge that's too great, it will smash, and it goes down quickly. The USSR, you can see, when it just collapsed like that. If the challenge isn't great enough, it overcomes it too easily and becomes complacent and lazy and decadent, and it takes a long time to go downhill, but it does eventually. But if the challenge is just right, then the society musters the creativity not only to overcome the challenge, but to keep going and to keep being more healthy. Not only regain health, but keep going, more health. I'm an optimist. Okay, so I'm
just going to pause it there, because I don't believe we're there. I don't believe we're there at all, because right now we're starting to realize that we're doing things on behalf of another nation. Plus, obviously, there's U.S. ambitions, but we're not being healthy. This swarm focuses on dysfunctional behaviors and trying to normalize them, trying to normalize thinking that is not healthy occult. It's not the light side. And yes, the occult does mean the hitting. That's why I'm showing you how they're organized, because they like to keep this hidden. And there are hidden people we'll never know about. And maybe there is some demonic force behind the scenes that maybe there is some lizard person. I don't know. I've never seen a lizard person. Maybe there is. But I think that's a distraction to focus on lizard people and UFOs. I think to understand that structure I just showed you is very important. But I think people would rather, say it's the lizard people. And my response to that is, okay, well, if it's the lizard people, then show me where they are and what they do. But nobody can ever do that. But I can, however, show you that structure and how it's organized and how the swarm is organized. In fact, I'm going to put that video. We'll keep playing this, but I will put the swarm video so you can watch it over again into the live
all
chat.
of this has been known all along by the Western esoteric tradition. I mean, this is two examples, and not only the Western esoteric tradition, the Western and Eastern. We have the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, and you have the pillar of severity, the pillar of mercy, and the middle pillar. Where else? In the middle. And the actual middle of the whole thing is Tifereth, which is the sixth Sephiroth. And that's supposed to be on the human scale, what we can hope for here. Harmony and beauty, harmonizing the different forces, the different Sephiroth. The Sephiroth are these vessels, they're kind of, bowls. The spiritual divine forces were poured into by God back in the, whenever. And those energies are what constitute the world. And what we can do is harmonize those energies within us. And in there, we have to have the pillar of severity, the pillar of mercy, smack dab in the middle, and all that. And similarly here in Taoism, you've got, yin and yang, a little bit of each in each side. And it's through that balance that everything is maintained. So it sounds cliche, but I'm saying this kind of thing that McGilchrist is writing about now.
So he's talking about a balance within yourself, a balancing of your energies. Because right now, this system, that swarm has you unbalanced. It has all your diet unbalanced, has your mind unbalanced, has your focus unbalanced, your mental health unbalanced. He's pointing to these esoteric traditions that show you that you don't even have to go out and participate politically right now. You just balance things within your own energy and your food. Whatever small steps you're taking, whether you're just taking sugary drinks out and then eventually you're cutting carbs, or you're walking every day and you're getting all the crappy food out and you're just having real food, or you are spending less time on the internet and more time, doing something physical, whatever it is. And in this case, it's about meditation and balancing different energies. You can see the tree of life that is very much part of the tradition. Maybe you are into, your traditional Catholic family. You keep up with that to keep united in your family values, keep your family together, because a lot of families are parted and divorced, and there's abuse and there's drug use. These elites, these agencies, they also drug deal and stream the drugs in here. It's really where you have to decide for your own, as your own individual, to start balancing your own self. That means even politically, don't wander to extremes in any group. You're trying to stay balanced and calm. And Gary's pointing this out in these esoteric traditions.
About the left and right brain, they're not talking about the brains, but I think they're talking about phenomenologically in terms of our experience of the world. I think they're talking about the same kind of thing. So let me just two permanent needs of human nature. This is stuff we all know.
We finished it off by that, and talking about this whole idea of occult and how it fuels war. What is war even about? What is Trump doing? This is, in my belief, what happens is both sides of the political spectrum are used for different elements, different means. Just like they don't care about if you're trans or you're not, or you're pro this, they'll use it all for money. So if they feel like they need to do some breaking down and doing some chaos and implementing crazy stuff into society, maybe they will make it so that a Democrat wins. The Democrat breaks things down, then people are freaking out and they're going to these people in the swarm to help them. They're begging them, and they then go, oh, and they start pushing maybe a more Republican or more authoritarian party that will come in, crack it down, invade other countries, and do nation buildings, because this is kind of what they wanted to do all along. And they're kind of biding their time, or they know they have to play these certain things out to leave society in a certain condition to beg for the help. You could call it the Hegelian dialect, problem, action, reaction, solution. But these guys are playing both sides. They all know each other. George Soros isn't just funding the left and doesn't know the people on the right. That's ridiculous. Right? They're always biding their time. They're always taking their time to plan and manipulate, and they start with these NGOs, these think tanks, and they're always plotting this. That's why when you start stepping out of their mind control, you're like, hell, this looks like a script. This looks like I'm being hypnotized. And essentially you are, and it's hard to step away from that. That's why I think Gary Lockman, to a certain point himself, is kind of mesmerized by it, because he's talking about Trump all the time, and he doesn't actually realize that what I just showed you with the swarm is actually that Trump's just a front man, just like Elon's a front man, the Clintons are a front man, and then they run all these nonprofits and NGO groups, and they're all interconnected, and it's all a revolving door of crazy. They don't realize this illusion. He knows you have to balance yourself, but none of them explain that dynamic very well. I don't know what Dr. Shiva is suggesting you do. But the war that we're at right now, where they want to, take over Greenland, take over Venezuela, arm Taiwan, go to war with Iran all at once, that's come out of everyone went crazy and voted for Trump because of all the chaos from the Biden administration with all the transgender stuff. And, he's pooping his diaper. He's got Kamala Harris with her Venn diagrams and, just really crazy stuff. They look totally incompetent. I think, and my husband said this as well, like, we think they did that on purpose so that people would put all their energy into Trump. And then they were always planning on infiltrating Trump and the neocons. Trump was always going to put those people in there. They funded his campaign. There's a good chance that Trump was always groomed to be this kind of president, where he's like an actor. He just comes in, he does all the acting, and all these people are making, the banks and everything, they're making all these decisions from behind the scene. It's like, okay, now this is the time. We did the Democrat thing where we kind of broke society up and divided everybody and made it crazy. Now we're going to go in there and we're going to roll out the plan to go to war and take over these different countries. And I can bet they want another term to keep doing that. I don't know how much each politician's aware of this, or if they know, or if they understand it in this way, or they just don't care, or they do. I'm not sure what they understand, but it's not that I think you need to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, not depend on anyone. It's actually the contrary. I think we need to have smaller communities, not global, because the farther away power is from you, the more you're going to, fall between the cracks. You have to have smaller groups that help each other, actually do help each other, and reach out and say, hey, you know, somebody you can buy eggs and beef from, and they can come and, get your mechanical services or whatever it is, how it used to be. And we're caught up in this nihilistic, strange system that has its own occult ritual beliefs and its own practices. He didn't even get into child trafficking and strange sex rituals and abuse that's happening behind the scenes in all these areas. He didn't even touch it, but it's there. It's absolutely there. So, I recommend you check out Gary Lockman's lectures. Like I said, he was in Blondie back in the 70s, and then turned philosopher and occultist. Debbie Harry was a Thelemite and occultist. I think occultist light. I think she was more into the aesthetics of having some occult stuff around rather than a hardcore practitioner, but he became a scholar and a lecturer on it because he always read about it. So he's interesting, but he does have a more democratic lefty concept. Rather, I think that's a dynamic we have to abandon, left versus right. And the Walter Bosley show, Walt always says that it's probably safer to stay away from the extremes because it's just meant to divide you. It's divisive. It's meant to break you down, break your country down. And, that gives that swarm and their little magic and their illusion more power if you're fighting with your neighbor. Because they're not fighting, generally. They have one goal, and when they move, the whole swarm moves with them. They all strategize. I do expect that as they consolidate power more globally, that they'll probably take out some elites and try to take their power away from them, take out leaders like Maduro. They'll probably take certain people out in an infight. I suspect they'll try at some point to get rid of Netanyahu if he becomes too much of a problem. I suspect things like they got rid of Hitler, even though they funded him. I suspect that stuff will happen. But all in all, the swarm is cohesive, and it's well planned, and it's well organized, and it's really good at mind control, mind manipulation, psyops. We didn't even get into that with the CIA. It's all good at all of these magic stuff, and they do use ritual, and they do use astrology to make decisions. So how do you break that apart? If everybody went off the internet and put their phones down and threw them away right now, it would fall apart in seconds. But like I said, I don't expect that to happen. So you just have to maintain your mind as separate from it and be aware as much as you can right now. Unless if you're willing to put your phone away and step out of it, good for you. But I don't expect, because everything is running on it. I don't expect that would happen. But if everybody took the internet out of their house and threw their mobile phones, it would collapse really quickly. I think the mobile phones, I mean, this was done by the military, the internet, and the Silicon Valley really was created by the military and the CIA. They were really structured by that. So I imagine this was part of the globalism. And then this is supposed to be in here eventually. So we would all have to throw this away. I don't know what else to say. Hello, oh, Incognito, we're about to shut down. You're an hour and a half late. Hi. Well, tomorrow, guys, I hope you enjoyed that show. But tomorrow, we're having the show starting at 7 p.m. Eastern on Dracula, the top 10 most romantic Draculas. And I've designed a presentation for that show. Hopefully, you'll like it. I'm going to have to still do a few clips to show you, but I will be here starting at 5 p.m. If I am to do a show ever on where I stream like a movie, I cannot do it on YouTube. So one time in the future, I may plan to do a stream where we present a movie and talk about it or do a team watch. We would have to do it on Patreon. So you can subscribe to Patreon as well for free. And then, we can show more clips there because we won't get copyright. So don't forget to go over there. It is patreon.com/CW Order of Velvet Bite. The Order of Velvet Bite is .substack.com, or you can just simply go to that newly designed website. Maybe I can pull it up here. Let's see what we can do. I'll pull up the website and I'll show you. It's newly designed. It's probably going to look a little different on mobile. I have to do a little tweaking, but we'll show it. But you can go to the website at melissadonharris.com and it should have all of the links. The audio podcast is on Spotify, Apple, and because it's on Apple, it distributes it out to a whole bunch of more iHeartRadio and all that stuff. So it's on most of them. But let's share our screen. And I'll show you the new website. There it is. So yeah, we're on YouTube, Twitch, Substack, Kick. This is Pocket Cast, Spotify, iTunes. Tells you the time. It gives you these links where you can just go. It tells you the latest drops. We are going to have cryptozoologist Richard Freeman on Sunday from the UK joining us. Then it will, goes on. Then it talks about members only episodes that are available and how to support the show. And of course, don't forget the thumbs up. That is the best way you can support this show, is clicking that thumbs up right now, leaving a comment in the chat, sharing it, subscribing to the channel. Make sure you click that bell on YouTube. It tells you when we're going live. Unfortunately, I don't think it alerts people early enough. It's almost like I have to talk for an hour before anyone shows up. It is crazy. So thumbs up. Thank you guys for all joining me today. But that's the new website that I designed, and the Patreon is there. You can either join for free or you can become a subscriber for as little as $2 a month. You can also become a subscriber on the Substack. All the links are on the website at melissadonharris.com. I'll pop up the link right before your face. melissadonharris.com. That is how we go. But remember, that whole swarm, break the swarm. We have to find ways to not rely on all their services, and they aren't going to go down nicely. Like I tell you, Ben Shapiro is a nasty mofo, and he's doing they do the nastiest things to take people down that you can ever think of. They will do nasty mind control. They'll present another hero. They'll present a chosen one. Trump is representing Jesus or God. They'll do all sorts of narratives that they know the masses will dive into, and you just have to let them and focus on controlling yourself and what you interact with. Let's see if there's any last minute commentary. Jonacide says, have a great night. Incognito forgot that it started at 5. He showed up way too late. You can watch it on replay if you want to help me with some hours, honey. You can go and do that. We have a few hundred hours before we can monetize. So the more people watch, put it on in the background while you're cleaning, the better it will get. So don't forget to check out all of those links. And definitely, I put the link to that YouTube video. It's called Shatter the Swarm. It's important to understand how this thing is constructed, because although I love David Icke and he will tell you, get off your knees and it's the elites and they're doing this and he's going to do this, he doesn't actually show you the vast system that's connected and how to disassociate yourself from that, because we are so hooked into it. It's like another system created over the organic planet, and it has its benefits, but it's too authoritarian now. It's too intense. It's like I said, it's too authoritarian, it's too intense, and it wants to invade too much of our lives. It likes us being dysfunctional. It likes us having sicknesses. It likes us having too many problems. It likes us divided while they are unified, and it likes us fighting and angry and afraid. It has not become a healthy system. It's certainly not a spiritual system, and it controls a lot of the religions as well. So just be wary of that, especially a lot of those evangelical churches and TPUSA faith. That is just a cluster fuck, pardon my language, but it really is. So you just have to be aware of how evasive it is. The streaming sites, Netflix, Amazon, any documentaries they're going to put on there, you should approach that with suspicion. You should be like, okay, this could be a lot of propaganda, because you should realize up the chain who sponsored it. Somebody in that swarm is sponsoring all this stuff for an objective that benefits the swarm, that doesn't necessarily benefit you. So with that, I hope to see you guys tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 10 most romantic Draculas. You can have your list ready. This will be my list, but I hope to see you tomorrow night, Thursday, January 8th, 7 p.m. Eastern. We will be starting, and I will see you then, guys. Thank you for showing up, and take care.